Cultural Resource Management, the Challenges of Shipwrecks. This presentation will cover the challenges facing archaeologists when it comes to preserving and managing non-renewable cultural resources like shipwrecks. Cultural resource management is the practice of protecting and managing cultural sites. Protecting underwater cultural heritage is complicated because ownership is often contested and safeguarding sites from illegal looting and exploration is difficult. In the past, it is clear that some shipwrecks have been looted and artifacts sold commercially to private collectors and unethical museums. Recreational scuba diving became increasingly popular in the 1950s as equipment became more reliable and available. Scuba equipment provided people new means of exploration which led to new discoveries in the ocean and on the seafloor. By the 1970s, scuba diving and treasure hunting had become a popular hobby and tourist attraction. In the United States, before the late 1980s, historic shipwrecks were being looted and damaged by anyone with the necessary equipment. The Florida Keys had become known as the treasure hunting capital of the world, and people had started commercial businesses to systematically loot historical shipwrecks and sell off the artifacts that they deemed treasures while blissfully ignoring all other artifacts. In 1978, Gerald Klein, an amateur treasure hunter, believed that he had located a historic shipwreck partially buried in the seabed of the Florida Keys. He tried to take legal action to claim ownership of the wreck so he could begin recovering artifacts for commercial sales. The following court case would prove to be influential for future legislation in regard to historic shipwreck ownership. The wreck had actually been located 3 years before Klein thought that he had found it. George R. Fisher, an underwater archaeologist, was working for the Biscayne National Park Service to survey the area. During this preliminary survey, Fisher located 46 shipwrecks within the park, including the wreck that Klein saw in 1978. Since then, we have identified over 70 shipwrecks within the area of the park. This image shows the probability of locating a shipwreck within the Biscayne National Park based on the environment of known shipwreck locations. The court ruled in favor of the National Park Service, and ownership of the site was awarded to the U.S. government. The wreck and its debris were declared objects of antiquity, and the court noted that Klein's unscientific removal of artifacts did more to create a maritime peril than to prevent one. Some people, unhappy with the court's decision, decided to vandalize the wreck by dragging anchors through it, an event that the site was never able to recover from. Over the next 3 decades, the Biscayne National Park monitored and surveyed the wreck identified as HMS Foy, recording the status of the remains and the marine environment. During each of the surveys, it was found that the remains were deteriorating and the seagrass was receding. Increased erosion of the seabed exposed new material remains which were easily carried off by visitors. After witnessing continuous destruction of the wreck from natural influences and nonstop looting, the decision was made in 2013 to bury the wreck to preserve what was left of it for the future and seal it from the public. It is unfortunate that after 3 decades of attempting to manage the site, that the only solution to prevent looting and preserve what remained was to close it indefinitely to research in the public, but the burial of the remains ensures preservation of the wreck. Other conservation methods for shipwrecks that are also popular dive spots include legislation, artificial reef wrecks, and education. Legislation works to protect sites by requiring permits. Artificial reef wrecks provide a safe alternative to diving on historical wrecks, and educating the public and diving community helps prevent unnecessary damage to the site. In Australia, divers are required to complete advanced courses to obtain a permit to dive on historic shipwrecks. This means that only more experienced divers are allowed on these sites. There are also zoning regulations which limit the number of tourists allowed on site, but businesses still use this as an opportunity to offer a more intimate look at a wreck. Another conservation method being employed in Australia is the use of artificial reef wrecks to provide an alternative to historical wrecks. Artificial reef wrecks are created by removing hazardous materials and dangerous equipment from a vessel and then intentionally sinking it. These artificial wrecks are safer for divers, but the long-term impact on the natural environment is not fully understood. In Australia, the diving community uses artificial wrecks as a safer way to train new divers, while also limiting the damage done to coral reefs by inexperienced divers. New divers seem to enjoy the experience of artificial reef wrecks and support stricter regulations on historic sites. Older divers are less willing to support the proposed regulations. Older, more experienced divers have been visiting many of the shipwrecks for years and feel a personal connection to the sites. Many divers feel a sense of belonging and identify with the sites that they regularly dive on. They are therefore less willing to abandon historical sites in favor of artificial wrecks. The public's interaction with shipwrecks is different than interaction with terrestrial archaeology sites. Archaeology sites located on land can be easier and less expensive to contain, safeguard, and preserve remains. When sites are submerged, it becomes much more complicated to enforce regulations on the public because surveillance of the sites can be extremely difficult. Education and communication with the community is an important aspect of cultural preservation. It is especially important with shipwrecks because it is impossible to maintain effective surveillance on the sites, so much of the preservation relies on informing individuals of proper practices when diving on a historical site. In Australia, there are excellent outreach programs that inform divers before they go out and emphasize the importance of not leaving a trace when they visit. From surveying experienced divers, anthropologists found that most of the diving community surveyed understood that it was wrong to remove artifacts from a wreck and agreed with the statement that artifacts should not be picked up and moved around a site. This is important because it shows that the community understands and agrees with the regulations imposed by the archaeologists. In the United States, Biscayne National Park is still victim to systematic looting and destruction by visitors. In 2001, a group organized through social media and targeted the park's shipwrecks for looting events to be carried out in civil disobedience against increased restrictions on commercial shipwreck salvage. In 2013, during the 16-day government shutdown, the park was closed, which led to many sites being looted and vandalized. Biscayne National Park has attempted to reach out to the public to change the culture around shipwreck salvage. The park holds lectures and posts on social media to invite the community to attend. The park also created a short video of the HMS Foy before it was buried, highlighting the features of the wreck. In the museum, there are display cases showing the material remains as well as explaining the issues of historic looting. Cultural resource management of archaeology sites on land or underwater is always a challenge, but working with the public and educating groups about their local history can be a very rewarding experience.